Welcome to Raising OKC Kids, Conversations with Metro Family in Oklahoma City. I'm Erin Page, and joining me today are Brenda Hernandez and Dora Evans to talk about National Hispanic Heritage Month. Welcome. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So I want to start by telling our listeners a bit more about each of you. Brenda Hernandez is co-founder and manager of community relations for Tango PR in Oklahoma City, a PR agency dedicated to creating marketing solutions relevant to today's Hispanic market. Brenda is passionate about serving the community, and she is involved with the YWCA of Oklahoma City, the American Red Cross of Western Oklahoma, and historic Capitol Hill and Fiestas de las Americas. Dora Evans is Community Connections Coordinator with Sunbeam Family Services, where she connects children and families to quality health and educational services. She's also lead of the Health Advisory Committee, comprised of more than 50 members of nonprofit and for-profit organizations across Oklahoma, including many our listeners will recognize, like Hearts for Hearing, Infant Crisis Services, Variety Care, WIC, and more. Prior to coming to Oklahoma, Dora ran the largest family resource center with LA Care in California. She's a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and she has 2 sons and 3 grandchildren. So for some historical perspective for our conversation today, National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated each year from September 15th to October 15th. And these are dates that are significant because they coincide with National Independence Days in Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Chile. The observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week, then expanded to a month and was enacted into law in 1988. So I'd love to start our conversation off today with the question, what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to each of you? Brenda, will you start?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for having us. It's a joy to be here and speaking about this subject that we love so much as part of our family. And well, to me, Hispanic Heritage Month, it's an opportunity, of course, to celebrate our rich Hispanic culture, but while also sharing with our younger generations. And also our larger community about our culture. It's an opportunity, a teaching opportunity for us to share more about what makes up that beautiful culture. I also think it's an opportunity to highlight and showcase those positive contributions that our Latinos, Latino Americans are making and what they have done in our country.
That's great, Brenda. Thank you. Dora, what about you? What does it mean to you?
Hello, good morning, Erin and Brenda. Thank you for this opportunity. This is wonderful to be able to share about the reason why I'm so proud to celebrate Latino Heritage Month or Hispanic Heritage Month here in the United States. One of the big reasons is I like to celebrate the roots that I'm from. And because I'm living away from home, I think it's important to educate people that we are here to contribute to this country. And at the same time, we feel proud of our roots. We feel proud of the hard work we all do here to work together to make this country better each day and contributing to the health and wellness of families and the communities that we live in. It's important for me to share the beauty of my heritage from Guatemala through sharing the foods that we eat here too, and they're similar, and to learn how much similar we are from each other than different, because we all love dances, we all love foods, we all love gatherings, but to learn and understand where we come from, it's really, really important to me. And I'm proud of our Mayan Indians. I am proud of our culture. And the fact that I get to share that here in this country, it's just makes makes things so much better.
I love that, Dora. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'd love to hear some specific ways that each of you and your families will be celebrating this month. And Dora, we talked earlier about how you celebrate differently in Guatemala than you might celebrate here, and the importance of really understanding the tradition and the cultures that come from each of these countries that we mentioned. So Dora, for you, what are some specific ways that you enjoy celebrating here, and how might that differ from how people are celebrating in Guatemala?
Thank you for that question. Yes, in Guatemala, for us, it's a big deal to celebrate the Independence Day. As a matter of fact, I used to march in the parade at my high school when I was growing up in Guatemala. And I was so proud to be on the first line because I was one of the tallest girls in my class. So I got to be at the front. And one thing that we don't do here for the Independence Day, aside from wonderful foods, gatherings, family, music everywhere, is we have firecrackers that day everywhere. So it's a huge celebration. It kind of sounds like the 4th of July. And because it was a big deal, you know, a lot of people died during those days to become independent. And we have, like I was sharing with you earlier, we make tamales. That for us, tamales is different than some other cultures or countries call it here. So when I first came to this country, people said, "Do you want a tamale?" And I said, "Oh, sure, let's eat a tamale." But when they gave me this little thing to eat, I said, "Wait, that's not a tamale. A tamale is made out of rice, and it's got pork inside, and the texture is different, and so it's different. The flavors are different, the music and everything. But we are so proud to have the opportunity to be able to celebrate it here with our cultural music, our dances that we're preparing for this month. And I want people and invite people to attend all of the events that are going on in the community to learn more about each other's culture. And at the end of the day, we're all together in this. So it's an honor to be able to share this great culture in the United States, in Oklahoma.
I love that, Dora. I love hearing about your experiences as a child. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Brenda, what about you? What are some ways that your family will be celebrating this month?
You know, we always look forward to this time. And one of the traditions that our family has, this has been now 16 years of Fiestas de las Americas. This is a street festival in Parade in Capitol Hill. And we love being able to celebrate with our community. I think one of the things that I enjoy the most is just sharing with our children and showing them to be proud of where they come from, of their heritage. I love wearing the clothing, traditional, you know, the embroidered shirts. I love seeing my daughter just embracing that and loving, you know, just to put those on and to be proud of who she is, you know, her Mexican heritage. And I love for them to learn about all the different countries that are represented within the Hispanic culture. And the parade is one of our favorite, and it just, you see these kids looking up at these different floats that represent different countries, and you just see how proud they are and how it becomes a little bit more of an understanding for them of where grandpa comes from, where my parents come from. I mean, and now they want to embrace that, and they want to celebrate as well. And so I think it's that understanding piece, that they understand, oh, okay, that's why grandpa loves this, or oh, that's why he loves this music, because it just really touches his heart, and they start relating more with their roots. And so yes, we look forward to it. It takes place during Heritage Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, in historic Capitol Hill, and usually about that last weekend of September, first weekend of October. This year's it's October 2nd. And other than that, I would love to one of the things that I love to do is support an organization that is supporting our Latino community. They're the largest Latino organization, the Latino Agency, Latino Community Development Agency, and they also have their annual banquet during this time, during Hispanic Heritage Month. And so definitely we look forward to supporting and attending every year because they are providing much needed social services for our community. So besides eating and enjoying the delicious food and dancing, and those are the other things that I enjoy.
That's so great. And you both have talked a little bit about this, but we talked before we started about your experiences as kids versus your kids and grandkids now experiencing this month, and kind of that infusion of pride that it provides to them, and really a rejuvenation of pride in Latino heritage and culture that this month provides everyone. Will you each talk a little bit about those experiences, kind of comparing your childhood experiences to your kids and what that means for you to see their pride and appreciation during this month? Dora, would you start?
Sure. Well, in my experience, unfortunately, my kids don't speak Spanish because, like many women who married American back in the 80s, Spanish was not the favorite or most popular language. And I would hear people say, if you don't speak English, then you don't belong here. Or I cannot understand, you're going to speak English because we don't speak Spanish. In fact, I remember my son's teacher in kindergarten told me, your son is having speech and language issues. Yeah, we have to test him. And I said, what? My son is okay. But they did, and so what they found out was that he was crossing languages. So she said, because he was only Spanish speaking, so she said, either you have to speak fluent English or he's gonna be delayed. So I started talking to him in English, and he was fine. But the beauty now is, kids can be bilingual, multiple languages. So my children did not speak Spanish. They don't speak Spanish, not even my grandkids either. And I had to speak English all the time, which is not my native language. And but what they do is they have really strong roots of their heritage. Both of my boys are really proud of being half Guatemalan and half American. And their homes are inundated with items from Guatemala, and they have pictures of the volcano and Antigua, Guatemala, and they love to hear where I'm from and what I do. And but unfortunately, because they're not in that, I would say, that environment, they appreciate learning more about it, but they're not part of the community events because they don't speak the language. And so, unfortunately, that's my experience. And I'm sure there are other women out there who have kids who only speak Spanish English because they were never appreciated as Latinos in the 70s. But at the same time, now they're learning a lot about our culture because the world in general is coming more acculturated with other cultures. And I hear that Hispanics are growing immensely in the United States. And pretty soon, Hispanic Americans are going to be the minority and Hispanics are going to be the majority because we're here. So, and we're not going anywhere.
Brenda, what about you? What is kind of that full circle experience like for you, thinking back to experiences you had as a child or growing up compared to today?
Well, I think it's that generational piece that I was part of that first generation of Latinos that grew up here in America. I am a daughter of Mexican immigrants. And my experience, them being that their only language was Spanish, I had no choice but to speak Spanish at home, and just, that was my culture, and what I came home to every day. I spoke English at school, I spoke Spanish at home. And so you're automatically, your upbringing is going to be very different than now our children. We'd like to think that, we're a little bit more educated, and our parents, they only received an elementary education. So that in itself is very different, in their upbringing. And definitely, I think little by little, it's offering more opportunities and, advantages to our other generations. But I think as far as the culture, it is a little bit difficult just to make sure that we don't lose that because of the language, because they know we speak English, they want to speak back to us in English, and so we have to be disciplined and just continue to speak back in Spanish. But it's very, very hard, and I'm dealing with that as well right now. My children are, my daughter's 14, my son is 10. And so I'm trying to make sure that they don't lose that Spanish. It helps that they have grandma and grandpa nearby, and they have to speak Spanish to them. But it is just a constant work with our children for the second generation, that they are much more bilingual and much more English speakers, and a little more detached from their culture. But I feel we have to pull them back and pull them back. I don't think our kids, they every time we told them we're going to this festival, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, they weren't as excited at first. And we're gonna put you in the parade, and we're gonna do this. But I think that once they're there, they really do appreciate, and they start just loving that they're a part of this. And they realize, I'm always telling them, you need to understand that, especially with everything that's going on in our country, with just racism and a lot of these issues that are very real. I think that it's good to talk to our children about race, about the beautiful part of us looking different, of us, having different ways of doing things, and that it is a good thing, that it's not a bad thing, and that we should embrace that. And so for me, I love to do that with my children, and just, they laugh and they think I'm silly sometimes, where I tell my daughter, no, you're a Mexican young lady, you're gonna have the thick eyebrows, the thick hair, and so just so that she understands that is a beautiful part of who she is, and that she is gonna look a little different, and that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely, I love that. I love your intentionality in that, Brenda. That's really beautiful. So as you are having those conversations in your home, for our non-Hispanic families and listeners, it's important for all of us to do our part in understanding and celebrating Hispanic Latino culture that is around us. So what are some ways for those non-Hispanic families and listeners to appropriately, respectfully celebrate and acknowledge this important month, and maybe also commit to learning more about Hispanic culture? Dora, will you start?
Sure. I think just attending some of those events, by learning how to listen more than talking, and understanding where people come from, and just take a moment to be, like you say, intentional, and learn more about other cultures. We have a lot going on here in Oklahoma, in our communities, and even in our neighborhoods. We have people from other places that, if we just take a moment and take the time to just talk to someone about and get curious, and not only that, but have some empathy, because it's not easy for a person who is, whether it's Hispanic or from Germany or any part of the world, to be in a foreign country. And if we all take a little time to understand where we all come from, I think it would be a much better world for all of us who live here.
Absolutely. That empathy piece is certainly key. Brenda, what would you add to that about how our non-Hispanic families and listeners can appropriately celebrate this month and learn while they're at it?
Yes, well, I invite you to come out and just be a part of these celebrations, as Dora mentioned, and to immerse yourself in the culture. Um, that really is going to be the only way that you're going to understand the community.
Yeah.
And just, enjoy the food, enjoy the entertainment, but also take time to learn about those different countries that are represented within that Hispanic culture. And it starts at a very young age. I think I personally love when children are exposed to these experiences and these different cultures at a very young age, because they start just seeing that the world is, a lot larger than they thought so, than they saw in their home, and that there's different ways of thinking, and there's different ways that we look differently, but again, that this is something that we should celebrate, and that we have a lot more in common than we have different.
Absolutely. Kind of going along those same lines, as a community, specifically in our schools, but also just in our families, how do we do a better job collectively of incorporating Latino culture, history, modern day heroes into our everyday lives? Dora, what advice would you give?
Well, we're doing that already, actually, because, for example, my granddaughter, I have two granddaughters, but the oldest, the little one is still in first grade, but she invites her friends over so they can see, what we eat for different, holidays. I always bring my black beans and rice, and they love it. I mean, they're like, what is this? Oh, I never had this before. And my granddaughter goes, "What tasted is so good. My grandma made it, and it's so good." So even after that, her friends ask her, "When is your grandma gonna make black beans again?" So we're trying to really, as a family, to learn more about other cultures through their friends. I think through school, through attending the community events, as Brenda was mentioning. That's the only way you're really gonna learn and understand and enjoy. Learning and meeting people that are from other countries, and just appreciating and being thankful that you are expanding your circle of friends. We like to travel to different countries too to learn. I mean, we've been to Costa Rica, and we know how different their foods are, and how the accents in Spanish, what they do. They're in, different celebrations are sometimes different than ours. I've been to Mexico too. El Salvador is next door from Guatemala, and they talk differently completely. And certain words mean different things. So understanding that, yes, we speak the same language, but not all the words that we say are meaning the same thing. I might be insulting by saying, "Can I have more yuca?" Well, what do you mean? Yuca is that's the root that you eat. And so when you learn about a culture, you learn the different linguals, you learn the different appropriate ways of talking to people, instead of just throwing it out there and shocking someone. So there's not many ways we can learn about each other.
I totally agree with you that food is always a great place to start. I know with my kids, going to festivals and trying food from other cultures is always a win, and then it piques their interest and they want to learn more. So I love that. Brenda, what about you? What are some ways that we as a community can do a better job of incorporating Latino culture and history into our everyday lives?
Well, I think it definitely is very important for us to share some of those stories of our Latinos with our children. They need to learn a little bit of our history, and we need a little bit more of positive role models and examples for our children. I think a lot of times, unfortunately, we hear a lot of the negative, and we don't hear all those success stories, all of those great people that are making a difference, whether it's here locally in Oklahoma City, in our country, you know, people that have served for our country. I mean, we have so many great role models and people that are part of our Latino culture that we just don't even know about. You know, we just opened a new park in South Oklahoma City, the Manuel Perez Park, and it was just incredible to see that not many people knew of his story and his service to our country, and just more of those stories need to be told, especially to our young children that, you know, in our Oklahoma City public schools. I mean, the largest percentage, more than 50%, is Latino. I definitely think that they and their peers, their non-Latino peers, they need to see more of those positive role models so that they can be empowered to do good things and know that they're very much capable of doing these great things.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Brenda. Thank you for that. I know each of you are committed to promoting diversity in the workplace. Will you each share about those efforts and how that really makes a positive impact on our entire community? Dora, would you start?
Sure. Yes. First, I am a member of we have a DEI B at work, which is the diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. And we added the B for belonging because when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's a piece that we need to feel belong in wherever we are at work, out in the community, or any place we go to. So we have a group. I'm a member of that committee where we do monthly trainings. We invite different speakers to come and talk about different subjects, such as, working with a co-worker who has special needs, the LGBTQ, understanding more about that. How do we talk to each other? How we learn from each other? And we also send out emails to staff on a monthly basis about different celebrations. Like, for example, this month will be the Hispanic Heritage, and learning more about what that means for the Hispanics and the teachers in the schools. Also, we have 60 schools in the metro area, Sunbeam starts from birth to 3, and babies learn different colors, different textures, different pictures of different cultures. And we try to start very young to teach them those differences between what, Hispanics are and how do we blend together and learn how to accept each other. It's okay. Of course, with babies and infants and toddlers, they don't see color, they don't see religion, they don't see height and weight or nothing. They're kids. And we want them to continue to be that way because we are all humans. So we have that group that is very strong in our Sunbeam culture, and we're starting to be really intentional on being more, have more empathy with people and accept others the way they are and learn how to work with each other and enjoy the everyday life. So that's what we're doing at Sunbeam. And also, at home, I bring all that information at home and talk about it with my children, talk about it with my spouse. And so it's around the world. I hear that in all the organizations that I'm working with. They all talk about diversity right now and how can we become more the same than different and just acceptable for who they are.
That's really powerful, Dora. Thank you for sharing that. Brenda, what about you? How are you seeing that commitment to diversity in the workplace making an impact?
Well, I definitely think that representation matters. When you bring a diverse group of people together with different ways of thinking, different lived experiences to the table, to represent those that you serve, and perhaps they also look like them and are able to communicate with them in their language. I think that you begin to see things in a very different perspective. You understand those that you serve at a whole different level. And, I think it really does make that difference, not only for those that you serve, but also in the workplace. You know, just having that diverse group of people within the organization, it just really gives so much more value, not only to the community, but to the company itself. It makes it stronger. I think that having those different perspectives will definitely give the organization a lot more of a advantage when serving the community that they serve, when they can really understand and have a different point of view than maybe what they originally had.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Brenda. Thank you both so much for your time today and all the wisdom you have shared with us. For our listeners, you can head to metrofamilymagazine.com for our list of local events happening between September 15th and October 15th to celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month. Thanks everyone for listening. Join us next time on Raising OKC Kids.